Did you know over 25,000 groupies followed rock bands across the world during the 1980s alone, many of them underage and hidden behind tour buses and backstage doors? From a Grammy-nominated bassist caught in a private video leak to a beloved guitarist found guilty of getting too close to a child. Here are 15 craziest intimate scandals in heavy metal history. 1. Ian Watkins of Lost Prophets. Ian Watkins seemed like a cool rock star. He had tattoos, wild hair, and big crowds cheering for him. His band, Lost Prophets, had hit songs and played on big stages. Fans trusted him. People thought he was talented, bold, and full of energy. But behind that loud music and stage smiles, there was something much darker. In 2012, the truth came out, and it was horrifying. Ian wasn't just doing bad things, he was doing things that were sick, wrong, and beyond anyone's worst thoughts. He was arrested for hurting children, not just once, not by mistake. It was clear he had been doing it for a long time. He even planned to do more. The police found messages, photos, and videos that shocked everyone. In court, he admitted to awful crimes, including trying to hurt a baby. That moment broke his image completely. People were disgusted. Fans cried. They deleted his songs, threw away shirts, and said they never wanted to hear his name again. The band broke up right away. He was sent to prison for nearly 30 years. He has to stay behind bars for most of his life. But even that doesn't seem like enough. What he did can't be undone. And what's worse, people had no idea. He was smiling on stage while hiding something horrible. It made people wonder, how many other stars are hiding things? How many smiles are fake? How many fans are cheering for someone who is secretly doing evil things? This wasn't just a scandal. It was a complete fall from fame. A man who had it all lost everything because of choices that were cruel and sick. It's not just about fame. It's about what people do when no one is watching. And Ian showed the world that even the most charming person can be the most dangerous. David Ellefson of Megadeth. David Ellefson was a big name in heavy metal. He played bass in Megadeth, a band that helped shape the sound of metal. For years, fans looked up to him as one of the greats. But in 2021, something changed, and fast. Videos and messages started showing up online. They were private, but now the whole world could see them. They showed David doing things people didn't expect. People started asking questions. Was it real? Was it right? Who was the other person in the video? David said everything was okay, that it was private and nothing illegal. But it didn't matter anymore. The internet doesn't forget. People were sharing the videos, making jokes, and spreading rumors. The band didn't wait around. Megadeth let him go. They said it was best for everyone. Just like that, one of the band's founders was out. He didn't break a law, but he lost his place anyway. Why? Because public image matters. What you do in private can destroy your future if people see it. This scandal wasn't about crime. It was about choices. David made choices that came back to him. Fans were split. Some said he did nothing wrong. Others were disappointed. He had a family, a career, and a name people respected. And he risked it all. It made people wonder, how many stars are one click away from losing it all? How many have something on their phone that could end their career? Even when charges aren't filed, the damage can be deep. Trust is easy to break and hard to get back. Fans felt tricked. Some walked away, others stayed, but with doubt. David's name will always be linked to this scandal, not because it was the worst, but because it reminded everyone how fast things can fall apart. 3. Decapitated. The band Decapitated was known for hard music and wild tours. They traveled around the world playing fast and loud. But in 2017, one night on tour turned into something they couldn't escape. After a show in Spokane, Washington, a woman came forward with serious claims. She said all 4 band members kidnapped her and did awful things. The news spread quickly. Metal fans were shocked. Some didn't believe it. Others were furious. The band was arrested in the U.S., far from their home in Poland. They denied everything. They said it was lies. But still, they had to sit in jail and wait. They had to go to court. Their names were in headlines for the wrong reasons. Fans who once cheered now watched in silence. Even when the charges were dropped months later, the damage had already been done. The woman said she didn't want to keep going through it. The court agreed to end it. But people still asked, what really happened that night? The truth stayed unclear. Some believed the band, some believed the woman. But in the end, it showed how one night could change everything. Whether guilty or not, the stain was there. The word decapitated didn't just mean a band anymore, it meant a headline. It meant trouble. It meant fear. And that fear stayed in the air long after the court case ended. Touring is supposed to be fun, loud, and full of energy. But this case showed how things can go wrong fast. Fame doesn't protect you. Fans don't always stay loyal. When something this big happens, you don't just go back to normal. Even when the law lets you go, people remember. They always do. 4. Nick Catanese of Black Label Society. Nick Catanese used to play next to Zakk Wylde in Black Label Society. He wasn't just a guitar player. He was trusted, respected, and even taught music to young students. But in 2018, that trust was destroyed. He sent private, inappropriate photos to a 14-year-old girl he taught guitar. A student who looked up to him. A student who trusted him. And he crossed a line no adult should ever cross. He didn't go to jail, but he didn't walk away clean either. He was found guilty. He got 5 years of probation, and he had to register as an offender for 25 years. That label doesn't go away. That decision will follow him forever, and it should, because this wasn't just a mistake. It was wrong, dangerous, and selfish. Adults in power have a job to protect, not take advantage. But Nick didn't care, and now he's remembered not for music, but for what he did to a child. Fans were shocked, parents were angry, music schools felt scared. Who can you trust if your own teacher turns on you? Nick ruined more than just his own name. He broke the peace that students and families should feel. That damage doesn't go away. The music doesn't matter anymore when there's fear attached to it. He was part of a band people loved. But now no one wants to say his name. He's not a hero on stage. He's a warning, a sign that danger can wear a smile, that even music teachers can do terrible things, that you can't always tell who's safe and who's not. 5. Rickard Sundin of Sabaton. Rickard Sundin was once seen as a proud part of the Swedish metal band Sabaton. He helped create their sound. Fans looked up to him, cheered for him, and believed he was just a talented guitarist. But in 2021, the world found out something awful. He was found guilty of abusing a young girl, just 8 years old. On top of that, he had illegal photos and videos of children. People were shocked. 9 months in prison didn't seem like enough. Many asked, how could someone who made music people loved do something so terrible? This case opened a painful door. It made fans question how well they really know the people they cheer for. The guitar he played became a symbol of something darker. Was he using his fame to hide what he was doing? Why didn't anyone see the signs? These questions won't go away. His actions also showed how people in power can use their position to hurt others. The music world isn't just about shows and songs. There's a side of it that's hidden, and sometimes it's very dark. Rickard was supposed to be a role model. Instead, he broke that trust in a terrible way. People had posters of him, wore shirts with his name, and now they can't even look at those items the same way again. There's also the girl's life, forever changed. What she went through can't be fixed by any jail sentence or money. Her pain lasts longer than the headlines. And it reminds us how real people are hurt when the world looks away. Some fans tried to defend him, others stayed silent. But silence doesn't help the victims. It only protects the guilty. How many other artists might be hiding things behind their music? This wasn't just a one-time mistake. It was a crime. A child's life was harmed, and the person who did it was someone thousands once cheered for. 6. Till Lindemann of Rammstein. Till Lindemann isn't just the voice of Rammstein. He was their fire, their energy. People filled stadiums just to see him perform. But in 2023, his name was tied to something much darker. A number of women came forward accusing him of doing horrible things after concerts. They said there was a casting system, a hidden setup to pick girls from the audience for private meetings. Some of these meetings, the women said, ended with them feeling scared, used, or worse. Berlin prosecutors opened an investigation. People across Germany, and soon the world, wanted answers. Lindemann said the claims were lies. He said he would fight back. But no matter what the final court decision might be, the damage was already there. Fans who once saw him as powerful now saw something else, someone whose fame may have gone too far. The idea that a famous singer might use his spotlight to target young women is not new, but it's always shocking. The concerts were supposed to be a safe place, a fun place. But now, people started wondering, was that ever really true? If women felt forced or scared to say no, is that really consent? These questions hit hard. The story grew quickly. It wasn't just about Till anymore. It was about the whole music world and how some artists treat their fans. Just because someone is on stage doesn't mean they should be trusted behind the curtain. Many asked, how did this go on for so long? Were people afraid to speak up? The case reminded many of the #MeToo movement. It showed how power can be dangerous in the wrong hands. People began looking at the music industry with fresh eyes. They started asking if rules and protections even existed for fans. Stephen Dawson of Saxon. Stephen Dawson helped build the sound of the band Saxon. He played bass, stood under bright lights, and heard the roar of the crowd. But in 2024, a different sound filled the room, the voice of a judge reading his sentence. Dawson was found guilty of crimes that happened in the 1990s, crimes against a young girl under the age of 14, crimes that changed her life and left wounds that never healed. He was given 5 years in prison. But for the victim, the pain lasted much longer. She carried those memories for decades. While Dawson toured and played shows, she stayed quiet. Maybe she was scared. Maybe no one believed her. But in the end, her voice broke through, and that mattered more than any concert. This case proved that time doesn't wash away guilt. Just because something happened a long time ago doesn't mean it shouldn't be punished. Some people said, it's too late, but it's never too late for justice. Dawson's story hit hard because it showed how easily people in power can hide dark pasts. Fans looked at him as part of music history. But now, that history has a shadow. What else don't we know about our favorite stars? The music world likes to celebrate success, but it often forgets the victims left behind. Dawson's trial made headlines, but it was the victim's courage that deserved attention. She waited years to be heard, and finally, she was. This case also taught a lesson. Never be silent just because someone is famous. Wrong is wrong, no matter how much money or fame someone has. The past can't be erased, but the truth can still come forward. Will other victims follow her lead? Stephen Dawson used to be known for his music. Now, he's known for something else. 8. Mark Piovanetti of Carnivore. Mark Piovanetti played guitar for Carnivore and Crumbsuckers. He was loud, wild, and part of the heavy metal world. But in 2025, his name appeared in court papers instead of concert posters. He was charged with terrible crimes: assault, trying to lure a child, and putting a young life in danger. It happened over just 2 days, but those 2 days changed everything. People were shocked. How could this happen again? Another name in metal, another dark story. The details in the report were hard to read. This wasn't about wild behavior or bad choices. These were serious crimes that could destroy lives. Mark's case sent a message. The music world has a problem, and it's not going away. Young fans, especially girls, are often the ones hurt most. They look up to these artists, not knowing the danger. Fame can give some people too much power, and sometimes that power is used to hurt instead of help. The industry keeps acting surprised, but it happens too often to be a shock. Where are the rules? Who is keeping fans safe? The people in charge need to stop pretending this is rare. Mark's fall from fame was fast. One day he was known for his guitar, the next for his charges. And fans are left wondering if they ever really knew him. What if this is just one of many stories? The charges are still being handled, but even now, the fear and pain are real. This isn't about waiting for a verdict. It's about stopping these things from happening again. The damage is done. Now we need to make sure no one else gets hurt. 9. Paul Collins of Lotus Eater. In 2021, everything came crashing down for the Scottish metal band Lotus Eater. The group didn't just go their separate ways because of musical differences or creative burnout. No, what tore them apart was much darker. Their lead singer, Paul Collins, was hit with terrifying accusations. These weren't simple disagreements. These were serious charges: rape, emotional abuse, and threats of violence. When the news hit, it didn't come from a newspaper or a reporter. It came straight from social media. Suddenly, fans and followers were reading posts that were hard to believe and even harder to ignore. The internet lit up with rage, shock, and sadness. People demanded answers, but there were none, just silence, until the band finally broke apart completely. The things said about Collins weren't one-time mistakes. They painted a picture of a man who used his position to harm others. Some fans had been following the band for years. They felt hurt, betrayed, and confused. Was this the same person they cheered for on stage? The same voice behind the songs they loved? Once the details started to spread, it became impossible to separate the music from the man. This wasn't just a bad choice or an accident. It was a serious pattern of behavior that hurt people deeply. And once that behavior was out in the open, the whole band was dragged into the storm. What happened with Collins proves something important. No matter how loud the music is, the truth is louder. When people in power abuse their roles, there are always consequences. Sometimes they come fast, and sometimes they come slow. But they always arrive. Fans saw that even in the loudest, hardest corners of music, darkness can grow. And once that darkness is exposed, there's no turning back. 10. Anthony Webster of Gel. The fall of the American band. Gel was like watching a building collapse in slow motion. At first, people only saw cracks, a lineup change here, a break in touring there. But in 2025, everything was out in the open. The former guitarist, Anthony Webster, was at the center of it all. He wasn't just accused of being a bad teammate. The band said he was involved in intimate misconduct, stealing money, and even putting them in danger. It was no small thing. These weren't just rumors. These were real actions with real consequences. The group said Webster misused thousands of dollars. Money meant for the band went into his own pocket. He spent it on adult websites and personal things that had nothing to do with their music. But it got even worse. They said he shared private photos of band members online, not just once, multiple times. It was a betrayal so deep it's hard to even put into words. The bond between bandmates is supposed to be tight. You travel together, sleep in vans, make art side by side. But that bond was broken, and there was no way to fix it. Even though Webster had left in 2024, the truth didn't come out until later. When it did, the band had no choice. They ended Gel for good. There was no saving the name, no pretending things could go back to normal. The fans were stunned. How could one person cause so much damage? It didn't happen overnight. It built up slowly, like a storm on the horizon. And when it finally hit, everything was destroyed. 11. Jesse Lacey of Brand New. Jesse Lacey used to be one of those names people whispered with respect in the world of alternative rock. He was the lead singer of Brand New, a band that had built a strong fan base over the years. Their songs weren't just catchy, they were emotional, raw, and often left people thinking about their own lives. Fans would gather in huge crowds, singing every word, feeling like they were part of something special. For a long time, it really felt like Jesse and his band stood for something honest and real. But everything started falling apart in the year 2025. A woman named Aiyana shared a very upsetting story that changed everything. She said Jesse had started talking to her in ways that weren't right when she was only 15 years old. That was all the way back in 2005. She explained that he sent her personal messages that made her feel uncomfortable and even scared. These weren't just innocent chats between a musician and a fan. These were serious things that made people start questioning who Jesse really was behind the music. The most painful part was watching fans try to figure out what to do with all of it. These were people who had grown up with Brand New. Their songs had been there during heartbreak, joy, and every moment in between. But now, those same songs felt different. They didn't feel comforting anymore. Some fans decided they couldn't listen to them at all. The words that once gave them strength now made them feel uncomfortable. The songs hadn't changed, but what they now knew about Jesse changed everything. It wasn't just disappointment. It was grief. People were mourning the loss of something they once believed in. Some tried to separate the music from the man, but others couldn't. Jesse didn't just let people down. He left a wound that words couldn't heal. And even if the band someday decides to speak, that hurt will still remain. For many, the damage is permanent. The memories have been rewritten, the music redefined, and the silence deafening. 12. Alexis Marshall of Daughters. In December 2021, the noise rock world was hit with a bombshell. Alexis Marshall, the lead singer of Daughters, was accused by his former partner, Kristen Hayter, of domestic violence and rape. The details were hard to hear. She said the abuse happened for years. Not just once or twice, but over and over. This wasn't a rumor passed around by fans or gossip sites. It was a real person telling her truth. And that truth made everything feel different. Kristen is a musician too, and she knew what it meant to go public. She risked everything, her privacy, her career, her safety. But she chose to speak. She said Marshall had controlled her, hurt her, and left deep emotional scars. And when people heard her words, many believed her. Not just because of what she said, but because of how much it took to say it. Marshall denied the claims. He admitted their relationship was unhealthy, but said he never abused her. Still, his words didn't erase hers. Before the public even knew about the accusations, Marshall's record label, Sargent House, had already dropped him. That action spoke louder than any denial. The label must have known something was wrong. They didn't wait for a court case or a big news story. They acted fast, which made fans wonder how much more there was to the story. Daughters had always been known for their loud, chaotic sound, but now that chaos felt real. 13. Jeff Whitehead of Leviathan. Jeff Whitehead, known as Rest in the black metal scene, was once praised for his dark and deep music. He played in bands like Leviathan and Lurker of Chalice, and many fans saw him as a true artist. But all of that changed in 2011. That year, he was charged with many crimes. The most serious was assault. Some charges were later dropped, but he was still found guilty of aggravated domestic battery. That means a court decided he physically hurt someone badly. That fact alone should have ended his fame. It should have made fans and the music world turn away. But that's not what happened. Just a few years later, in 2015, Decibel magazine put Whitehead on their cover. That choice shocked many people. Why would they promote someone found guilty of violence? Fans were angry, and rightfully so. The magazine didn't focus on the people who were hurt. Instead, it gave a spotlight to someone whose actions caused real pain. It seemed like the magazine cared more about getting attention than doing what was right. That decision felt like a slap in the face to victims and fans who believed in fairness. The backlash was strong, but it didn't change the fact that the damage was already done. The cover showed how fame can protect people, even after they hurt others. It made people wonder, how many others in the music scene are being protected like this? Are magazines and labels only after headlines? When someone with a violent past gets promoted, what message does that send? Does it tell fans that music matters more than human lives? Whitehead's case is a clear example of how the heavy metal scene sometimes turns a blind eye. People look the other way when the music is good, but music should not be used to excuse violence. Fans deserve better. They deserve to know the truth about the artists they support, and when someone hurts others, they should not be given more fame. This isn't just about one man. It's about a pattern where bad behavior is forgiven if it brings in money or clicks. The world saw what Whitehead did, and yet a magazine still thought he deserved a cover. That tells us something is very wrong. Victims are often left behind, their stories ignored. And those in power, they stay quiet, or worse, they help the guilty rise again. We should be asking hard questions. Why do we support people like this? Why do some artists get a second chance while their victims stay silent, forgotten? Fame should not be a shield. Music is powerful, but it should never be used to hide the truth. Let this case remind us, if we don't speak up, we become part of the problem. 14. Carl Logan of Manowar. Carl Logan, once the guitarist of the well-known heavy metal band Manowar, shocked everyone with his crimes. This wasn't about bad behavior on stage. It was something far worse. In August 2018, Logan was arrested in Charlotte, North Carolina. Police found videos on his computer. These videos showed children in horrible scenarios. The crimes were not just rumors or gossip. They were real, and they were serious. The videos had been downloaded and kept between June and August of that year. That means for months, Logan hid a dark and evil secret. Logan was charged with 6 counts of third-degree exploitation of a minor. These are not small crimes. These are crimes that ruin lives. And yet, many fans were in shock, not knowing what to think. For years, Logan had been part of a band that stood for power and strength. Now, his name was linked to some of the worst acts a person can commit. Manowar reacted quickly. They made a public statement saying that Logan would no longer be part of the band, but the damage had already been done. Fans were left stunned. How could someone they admired be part of something so awful? People began asking how this had gone unnoticed, Was no one paying attention? Were there signs that people missed? In 2022, Logan was sentenced to 5.5 years in prison, but many felt that even prison was not enough. The scars left by crimes like his go far beyond jail time, and the silence from parts of the music industry made it worse. There were no long talks about what happened, no big changes, just a quiet removal and a hope that people would move on. But we should not move on. We should ask ourselves why this keeps happening. Why do people in powerful places think they can get away with these things? And why does the music industry often stay silent until it's too late? This is not just about Carl Logan. It's about the fans who feel betrayed. It's about the victims whose pain goes ignored. And it's about the silence that follows too many crimes in the world of music. When someone commits crimes against children, the response should be loud and clear. There should be outrage, not just quiet exits. Music is supposed to bring people together. It's supposed to inspire. But when someone who creates music is caught doing something this evil, the silence that follows speaks volumes. It's not just one man who failed. It's a system that didn't act fast enough. And unless we change that system, it will happen again. 15. Jason Dagon Wierbach of Inquisition. Jason Wierbach, known on stage as Dagon, was once a name people admired in the black metal world. His band, Inquisition, pushed limits and gained loyal fans. But behind the music, there was a darker truth. In 2009, Wierbach was convicted of 2 serious crimes. One was showing explicit material in a way that broke the law. The other was resisting arrest. These were not small mistakes. They were acts that raised serious concerns. Even though he avoided jail, the court still found him guilty. For a while, the music world didn't seem to care. Inquisition kept making music. Fans kept buying records. But in 2018, the past caught up. News about Wierbach's old convictions started to spread again. And this time, people listened. His record label, Season of Mist, dropped the band. Not long after, Inquisition was removed from the lineup of Maryland Death Fest. A tour with another band, Satyricon, was also canceled. The fallout was fast, and it was loud. Wierbach tried to defend himself. He said the material found on his computer was adult content, not anything illegal. He claimed it was all a misunderstanding, but that didn't change the facts. He had been convicted. He had broken the law. And now people wanted answers. Fans were confused. Some stood by him. Others turned away in anger. But one thing was clear. The truth had changed everything. What once seemed like a story about pushing limits in music now looked like something much worse. This case showed how slowly the music industry reacts to bad news. It wasn't until years later that real actions were taken. And even then, it only happened because people started speaking up. If no one had said anything, would Wierbach still be on stage? The story of Dagon isn't just about one person. It's about how easy it is to ignore the past. It's about the silence that covers up the truth. And it's about fans who deserve to know who they are supporting. Music should not be a place where serious crimes are brushed aside. Too many times, we see artists with dark pasts being allowed to continue like nothing happened. But that has to change. We can't keep putting fame before truth. We can't keep rewarding people who have hurt others, and we can't stay quiet when the facts are right in front of us. Dagon's fall from grace is a lesson in what happens when the truth is hidden for too long, a lesson in why we must hold people accountable, and a warning of what can happen when we don't. It started with small lies, quiet deals made in shadowed rooms, and choices no one dared question. People turned away, convinced it wasn't their problem, that someone else would speak up. But silence only gave Dagon more time and more power.